With the preseason underway and the regular season just around the corner, we break down the Islanders' keys to success for 2025-2026. All that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today and talk a little Islanders hockey. We have got a lot to discuss on today's show. We're going to break down the keys to success for the Islanders, both up front and on defense and in goal this year. And we'll also be answering your mailbag questions. This one having to do with the Islanders' timetable for true cup contention. All that plus our Islanders birthday of the day coming up on today's show. Let's start with the keys to success. And again, because of the holiday, I recorded this before the holiday on Monday. We'll be back to regular shows tomorrow. But the Islanders right now are in a retool. And, management wants to sell tickets. They're going to sell you that, yes, this team can compete for a playoff spot. And it may be possible, but a lot of things have to break right for that to happen. And that's really what we're going to focus on today. What does really have to happen for this team to have a shot at squeaking into the playoffs this year? And let's start with the forwards and the offense. And I think the first one is fairly obvious. This team needs to be healthy, or at least healthier than they were a year ago. You need Mathew Barzal to play 70-plus games and be the old Barzy that he was before the injury. And in the preseason opener against the Flyers, he certainly looked really good as far as his skating is concerned. Was he 100%? Didn't quite look like he was going 100% all out as far as his changing directions, stopping and starting. We'll see how that goes. But the skating looked good. The speed was there, and that is important. Jonathan Drouin, who the Islanders signed to a free agent deal, 2 years, $4 million per, also has a lengthy injury history. He needs to stay healthy. And ditto for Anthony Duclair, who we never really saw what the Duke can do except for the first 5 games before he suffered that injury. And it will be critical for Anthony Duclair if this Islanders team is going to improve from near the bottom of the league in goals scored to, let's even say, middle of the pack. Get me to somewhere in the teens. You're going to need Anthony Duclair to give you 15 to 20 goals this year and 40 to 50 points this year in order to make that happen. We also are going to need strong contributions from both Maxim Siplikov and Maxim Shabanov. The 2 Russians are kind of the big wild cards in all of this. We know Siplikov gave us 10 goals last year. Wasn't a bad season, but certainly could be better. And if he can go from, let's say, 10 goals to 18, that's how you make up for the loss of Brock Nelson, who was one of your better goal scorers. Drouin, Siplikov, Shabanov, Duclair. If those guys can stay healthy and play better, that's how you make up that goal differential. You'll also need Anders Lee. He may not match the 29 goals he had last year, but stay in the mid-20s, let's say 22 to 27. Get me around 25 goals from Anders Lee. Kyle Palmieri, give me another 20. Simon Holmstrom, continue to develop and grow and maybe get closer to 25 than 20. And here's the thing. All of these keys or these factors are not unrealistic or impossible. What is unrealistic, though, is that all of them will happen. Injuries are part of hockey. Some of these guys are not going to play a full season. Some of these guys are going to play through injuries and not be up to par as to what we expect from them. That's inevitable. And, we've got to figure out enough of these things that I'm discussing have to happen. And I'll add a couple more. Emil Heineman. The fourth line has to be more difficult to play against. There have to be players who go out there. I think Cizikas, Heineman, and Gatcomb would be the ideal fourth line. They'd skate, they'd forecheck, they'd be physical. Looks like Siplikov may start the season on the fourth line, although if he has a really good training camp in preseason, that could change as well. But I want to see that fourth line be tougher to play against than it has been last year. And you got to replicate. It doesn't have to be exactly like the identity line of Cizikas, Martin, and Clutterbuck in their heyday, but the spirit of that, the difficulty to play against, the setting the tone, that still has to happen, and hopefully it will. So there's that. And then the other thing offensively, and I think this is critical, the power play cannot be 31st in the league again. Get me again into the teens. Get me to slightly below average, 18th, 19th. That would be enough. But get me to average or somewhere close to it on the power play. And look, we've got new power play coach, some new personnel in I'm going to say Duclair is new because we didn't see what he could do last year. Drouin, Shabanov. These are guys who can definitely help. And obviously having a healthy Mathew Barzal. These are guys who can impact the power play. When you struggle to score goals like the Islanders have over the last 10 years, maybe more, since Doug Waite left as coach and they played a more run-and-gun system in Mathew Barzal's first year, rookie year. Since then, this team has struggled to score. You've got to have the power play being at least respectable, and it hasn't been. So let's hope that the Islanders move the puck better, move without the puck, shoot and get to the dirty areas for rebounds, deflections, and tips, and screen the goalie and just become more tenacious. Those are keys to success for the 2025-2026 New York Islanders, and hopefully we see more of those things as the season goes on, and that will be critical. What about the defense? What about the goaltending? We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if that first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. That's $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Do you like player props, or maybe you prefer building a same-game parlay to get better odds? Or you could jump in live as the action unfolds. Any way you do it, it makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your favorite team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com. Check it out today. We talked about the offense and what they need to do. How about the defense and the goaltending? Let's again start with the obvious. They've got to stay healthy. Now, there is a little more depth on this team in the organization right now, but Ryan Pollock, Adam Pelech, Scott Mayfield, these guys have got to stay in the lineup. They've missed a lot of games in recent years. Having them healthy will be critical. Obviously, after paying him, the Islanders need Alexander Romanov to step up and really start to play good, smart defensive hockey. He usually does, but he always has those slip-ups, those little mental lapses. That cannot continue, and the Islanders need Romanov to take that next step forward in his development. He's 25. He's in the prime, starting the prime of his career as a defenseman. It's time for him to do exactly that. Show what he can do, continue his development. Tony DeAngelo, stepping up. He is going to quarterback the power play. At the beginning of the season, it'll be probably the top power play. He may drop down to second power play time, depending on what happens with Matthew Schaefer. But DeAngelo has to be productive on that power play as the quarterback and be the guy who could skate the puck up the ice when he's out there. And then the wild card on the blue line is obviously Matthew Schaefer. Does he stay beyond 9 games? If he does, how much offense and skating does he add to this team? Is he a better player in March than he is in October? And how quickly does he learn and adjust to the NHL game? I do not realistically expect 50, 60 points from Matthew Schaefer in year 1. But I do expect progress, skating, speed, and I love this kid's attitude. I think he's going to stay this season, but he's got to prove in that 9-game early season tryout that he can handle the grind. And if he doesn't make it, Isaiah George probably does step up and make an appearance, but we'll see how it all plays out. And then the goaltending. Obviously, Ilya Sorokin has to stay healthy, and Ilya Sorokin cannot be overworked. The Islanders have 15 back-to-back games on their schedule this year. 15 back-to-backs. They cannot wear down Ilya Sorokin. And that means they need to find a reliable backup goalie who they can trust to start 30 games, give or take, over the course of the year. And it could be more than one player. We know Semyon Varlamov is skating, but isn't practicing yet with the team. It looks highly unlikely that he will start the season on the roster, and we don't know if he'll ever be able to come back and be the goalie that he was. But I believe that David Rittich can give the Islanders solid backup goaltending. He's been inconsistent. He's had some really strong seasons and some really spotty seasons. Last year was not up to snuff. The year before, he was excellent. But if he can give the Islanders solid backup goaltending to start the season and maybe for the whole season, it could really impact this team's ability to play well. And if Varley comes back and can continue to be the backup that he was before the injury, that's a bonus. I cannot look at Varley and say, I'm counting on Semyon Varlamov to be the backup goalie this year. I would love to see it. I'm a big Varley fan. I think, though, that he is just not going to have an easy time getting back, whether it's Varley, Rittich, or Hogberg. The Islanders need a backup goalie who they can rely on. I'll say this. If Ilya Sorokin misses significant time, this team is not making the playoffs, most likely. He remains the guy who keeps the New York Islanders in almost every game he plays. And you can't wear him down. You can't wear him out. He is your best player right now on this team. And he is a player who they need him for the long term. He's under contract for a lot longer than, just this year or next year. He is under contract until 2031, 2032. That's the last year of his deal. You got to keep him healthy. And I'll say this again, in my mind, while I would love to see this team compete for a playoff spot this year, the key is the long term. Do not burn out or injure Ilya Sorokin chasing the final playoff spot this year. And then finally, the penalty kill. Dreadful last year. And the thing is, penalty killing is a system thing, but it's also an effort thing. And we got a new penalty killing coach this year. This team has, again, doesn't have to be the best penalty killing team in the league, but get me to the middle. Get me to average. Get me somewhere respectable. Can't be 31st in the league again. You've got experienced penalty killers on this roster. J.G. Pajot, Casey Cizikas, Emil Heineman could probably kill penalties. Simon Holmstrom, great at killing penalties. The penalty kill, it's partially strategy and coaching, but a lot of it is heart and effort and just knowing your job and executing it. This penalty kill must improve if this team has any chance at success this season. If it does not get better, this could be a long, long year. So those are the keys in my mind as of right now for the Islanders to get back to respectability and to have a realistic chance of fighting for a playoff spot. Will they make it? Got 82 games, right, to figure that out. And I think if they make it, there's some good points to that. If they fall short, the retool accelerates and continues. You could trade off some more veterans, which I think they should do either way. Get more picks for this very, very good 2026 draft. You already have 2 first-rounders. I'd love to add another or another highly regarded prospect that can step in. And all across the board, as the season goes on, I want to see the Cal Richies and the Isaiah Georges and the Matthew Schaefers. I want to see these kids get a chance to play. Will they do it? Well, we'll find out, but we'll have it covered for you every step of the way here on Locked On Islanders. We have a great mailbag question related to all of this. We're going to answer that, which talks about the long-term future of this team. And for our Islanders birthday of the day, a winger who was with the team in the mid-'80s to early 90s. We'll talk about his impact on the Islanders and a whole lot more coming up next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. We go back to the mailbag, and this is a great one. Paul from Manchester in the UK. Hi, Gil. Looking forward to the season now that training camp has finally started. Plenty to talk about at the moment and had some questions and discussion points. I've been following the elite prospects pool rankings, and the Islanders came out second overall, only behind San Jose. They ranked 19 Islanders players. Based on that, what do you realistically think is the time frame for the Islanders being contenders or a comfortable playoff team? Maybe 4 years once the top prospects make the NHL and give them a year or two of experience. Paul from Manchester, UK. Paul, first of all, thank you so much for the question. It's a great question. I think it's a question that is on a lot of Islander fans' minds, and I'm honored to have a listener or a viewer all the way over in the UK. So that is great. Thank you. I think to be a solid playoff team, I think that could happen in 2 to 3 years. And I think a legitimate cup contender, 3 to 5 years, probably 4 to 5 years for that to get really, really good. And we don't know how many of these players are going to pan out of all these prospects. Some of them will be busts. Some of them will never play an NHL game or will get a cup of coffee. But what we do know is this. If a little more than half of them, let's say, hit and develop into good players, this team has hope for the future. They could make the playoffs this year. I don't think it's likely, but they could compete for a playoff spot. To me, if the Islanders are playing meaningful games at the end of March, beginning of April, this has been a solid season. But to me, the focal point of this organization is the future. I do not want to give up picks and prospects to squeeze into the playoffs this year and be eliminated again. But when you look at the prospects, Schaefer, Eklund, Aitchison, Yzerman, Nelson, so many guys that this organization now has and are working on developing. I think this New York Islanders team can be in the playoffs possibly this year, but I think next year, much more realistic to say that this Islander team can compete for the playoffs. And then a couple of years after that, they can be one of those teams. What you want to see from the Islanders is to get to the point where the Islanders, and this is what Matthew Darsh spoke about in his introductory press conference. You want to get to the point where the New York Islanders are one of those teams that every year for 5, 6, 8 years, you say, this is a team that has a realistic chance to compete for the Stanley Cup. Be like the Colorado Avalanche or the Tampa Bay Lightning, where Darsh came from, or the Dallas Stars. And these teams don't necessarily win every year, and some of them may never win a cup. But they're there. When the season starts, these are teams that you know can compete for a championship. That if you're listing the top 5, 7, 8 teams in the league, those are teams that make it almost every year. And think about this. The Colorado Avalanche, for example, lost one of their best players in Gabriel Landeskog. For years, he was out like 3 years, and they were still among the elite teams in the league. That's where you want the Islanders to be. And yes, injuries and a little bit of luck and a few other factors will always be in the mix. But boy, oh boy, you want the Islanders to reach that level where they can be an elite team, one of the top teams, a team that gets a lot of attention from the national media and is considered a perennial cup winner. And you could still have Ilya Sorokin, Bo Horvat, Mathew Barzal. 3 years from now, those guys they'll maybe be slowing down a little bit or starting to, but they'll still be really good players. And when you add the talent that you see in the prospect pipeline now, it gives you a lot of hope for the future. So, Thomas, Paul, thank you so much for the email and for the question and for watching or listening to the podcast. Paul from Manchester, UK. Great to answer your question, and hopefully the Islanders will get to where we're discussing, where they are a perennial cup contender. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day, and we're a couple of days early, but September 25th will be the 61st birthday of former Islanders winger Dale Henry, the Prince Albert, Saskatchewan native, 6'1", 220, an 8th-round pick of the Islanders in 1983, made his debut with the team in 84-85, played in 16 games there, and stayed with the Islanders through the 89-90 season. Kind of always split time between the Islanders' top farm club and the big club, and then finished up his career in the minor leagues, played all the way till 2001, 2002. Only played in 132 career NHL games, all of them with the Islanders, 13 goals, 39 points, 263 penalty minutes. Add 14 playoff games, he had a goal, and 19 penalty minutes. One of his better games with the Islanders, February 16th, 1988. Islanders hosting the Calgary Flames. Mike Vernon, the goalie for the Flames. Billy Smith, the goalie for the Islanders. And in this game, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Dale Henry, with the score tied 1-1. Brett Hull had scored for Calgary. Gerald Diddick for the Islanders. Dale Henry puts the Isles ahead to stay. His third goal of the year from Bob Basson and Gerald Diddick. Islanders go on to beat Calgary by a score of 9-3. But in this game, Dale Henry, he had a goal. He had 7 penalty minutes and 4 shots on goal. He did indeed drop the gloves. This was a physical game for sure. And, always good that Dale Henry, you could count on him. He dropped the gloves with Tim Hunter of the Flames. So Dale Henry, a tough, rugged winger for the New York Islanders. He is our Islanders birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no off season. We're bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. If you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show and we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR vs NYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Everydayers will be back tomorrow. We'll review the Islanders' second preseason game, which took place on Tuesday, and we'll have the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings. Happy and a healthy new year to everybody who was celebrating the holiday over the last couple of days. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.